What happens when a single tweet can shake entire stock markets? When one man's vision can send humanity to the stars, and another's empire can control how billions shop, work, and live? We call innovation. We call it genius. But here's the question no one dares to ask. When brilliance becomes power, and power becomes untouchable, does democracy still stand a chance? Because while most of us are fighting to be heard, they're quietly shaping the rules of the game. And if the game is rigged by the richest minds alive, then what future are we really walking into? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you won't just see the world differently. You'll see your place in it. They began as ordinary men armed only with impossible dreams. In the silence of forgotten garages and dimly lit dorm rooms, they stared at flickering screens and saw empires not yet born. Elon Musk, restless and relentless, whispered to himself that humanity could not stay chained to one planet. Jeff Bezos, patient and calculating, promised that the world would one day shop from their living rooms and the stars would be within reach. They weren't supposed to succeed. They weren't supposed to outgrow nations. Yet here they stand, not as mere men, but as forces of history. Their companies span the globe like arteries. Tesla electrifying the roads, SpaceX piercing the skies, Amazon delivering to nearly every doorstep, Blue Origin reaching for the heavens. They rose from obscurity and now move markets with a tweet, shift economies with a decision, and shape the future with the weight of their ambition. And as their power multiplies beyond comprehension, one question echoes louder than ever. Can democracy survive when private power towers above nations? Democracy was built on a fragile miracle, the belief that power belongs not to kings or conquerors, but to the people. It depends on balance, on guardrails, on the humble truth that no one man should stand higher than the collective voice of millions. Yet now, the shadow of two towering figures stretches across the world. Tesla is more than a car company. It is a symbol of technological destiny. Amazon is more than a marketplace. It is the beating heart of global commerce. SpaceX is more than rockets. It is humanity's foothold in the stars. And Blue Origin is more than a space dream. It is Bezos' declaration that the sky itself will not be a limit. These men no longer compete in markets. They reshape the battlefield itself. Their net worths eclipse the GDP of nations. Their decisions ripple like shockwaves across continents. They're not simply building products. They're rewriting the architecture of human life. And this is where the tension begins. Power was meant to be distributed, not concentrated. Democracy depends on many hands steering the future. Yet today, so much rests in the hands of so few. Amazon's Amazon Web Services quietly host governments, banks, hospitals, and media companies. SpaceX's Starlink satellites beam internet into war zones and disaster areas, giving Musk leverage once reserved for nations. X, formerly Twitter, has become a digital town square under Musk's control, where billions of voices can be amplified or silenced at the tap of his finger. These are not just companies. They are infrastructures of civilization. When a single man controls the roads, the rails, and the wires of the modern world, what becomes of the power of the people? And yet, their stories burn with something deeply human, an unshakable belief that the impossible can be done. Musk sleeps on factory floors, drives himself into exhaustion, risks ridicule for chasing Mars. Bezos works with the patience of a chess grandmaster, moving pieces for decades while the world doubts him, only to emerge years later holding entire industries in his grasp. This is why they inspire millions, not because they are rich, but because they remind us how far conviction can carry a human being. Their rise is a thunderclap announcing what humans can do when they refuse to bow to limits. And still, beneath the all lies and unease, a whisper we cannot silence. When such power rises in private hands, does it lift humanity or endanger the very foundation of freedom? History teaches us a hard truth. Every time power centralizes, democracy trembles. Once it was kings, then emperors, then oil barons and railway tycoons. Each time, society had to fight to keep power accountable, to remind the mighty that they serve the many, not rule them. Now, in this digital age, power has taken a new form. Not thrones or crowns, but algorithms, rockets, global logistics networks, and social media platforms that shape our thoughts before we speak them. Musk and Bezos are not villains. They are visionaries. But even visionaries must answer to something larger than themselves. And right now, the machinery of oversight seems too small, too slow, too fragile to keep pace with their accelerating empires. We stand at the edge of a paradox. We celebrate their genius, yet fear their shadow. We cheer their triumphs while wondering if our applause builds a cage around our own freedom. This is not envy. It is caution. Because when innovation becomes empire, when ambition becomes dominion, when private will towers over public power, democracy itself is tested. And as their influence stretches from Earth's core to the edge of space, one question grows impossible to ignore. What happens to the voice of the people when the loudest voices belong to billionaires who answer to no one? Power is not just what you own. It is what you can shape. And today, Musk and Bezos shape the invisible currents that carry the world forward. Their reach is not confined to markets. It seeps into the nervous system of civilization itself. Amazon's Amazon Web Services quietly runs the digital infrastructure of governments, corporations, banks, and hospitals. When its servers flicker, economies hold their breath. SpaceX's Starlink satellites beam internet to war zones, protest movements, and disaster areas, giving Elon Musk the ability to connect or disconnect entire regions with a single decision. X, formerly Twitter, is not just a social platform. Under Musk, it has become a digital megaphone for billions, a place where narratives are born, policies are debated, and revolutions whisper before they roar. These aren't just companies anymore. They're the scaffolding of the modern world, and their builders hold the keys to its switches. Jeff Bezos' empire reaches even deeper into the fabric of daily life. Amazon is the marketplace of the modern age, controlling supply chains, dictating prices, shaping how products reach us and how businesses survive. Its algorithms decide which companies thrive and which vanish in silence. Its warehouses are cathedrals of efficiency, where millions of workers move to the rhythm of machines designed to squeeze time itself. And through Blue Origin, Bezos quietly reaches towards space, not as a dreamer anymore, but as a strategist, laying the groundwork for private ownership of the stars. He is building infrastructure, not headlines. And in that quiet persistence lies his greatest power. He does not simply ride the tides of history. He builds the currents themselves. But power this immense does not stay confined to business. It seeps into politics like water through stone. Musk and Bezos do not campaign for office. They simply reshape the battlefield on which politics is fought. Lobbyists carry their agendas through the halls of United States Congress. Politicians court their investments as if courting kings. When Tesla builds a factory in a state, laws bend. When Amazon threatens to move jobs, entire cities rewrite their tax codes. This is influence not through votes, but through gravity, an economic pull so powerful that even governments must orbit it. And when private gravity bends public will, democracy is no longer a level playing field. It becomes a tilted board where the richest players always roll loaded dice. Even culture bends around them. Musk is not just a CEO. He is a cultural myth, a living symbol of audacious risk. His tweets move cryptocurrencies, shift public opinion, and fuel entire fandoms who treat his words like scripture. He turned SpaceX launches into global spectacles, made electric cars symbols of status, and recast billionaires as rebels instead of aristocrats. He made waiting obsolete and efficiency sacred. He made the modern consumer believe the world should bend instantly to their will, and Amazon made it so. When individuals can shape not only what we buy, but what we believe about progress, ambition, and possibility itself, they do not just command markets. They command imagination. And yet, power hidden behind inspiration is the most dangerous kind. Because when it wears the mask of hope, we stop questioning it. We stop noticing when the balance shifts. We stop asking who holds the levers behind the curtain. Democracies thrive on doubt, on the friction of voices clashing, on the endless tug of accountability. But who can hold billionaires accountable when their platforms shape the debate itself? When they can amplify or silence entire conversations? When their satellites beam internet to the battlefield while their social networks frame the war story? They are not villains. They are visionaries. But vision, unchecked, becomes dominion. And dominion has never served democracy well. This is the paradox that gnaws at the edges of our faith in the system. We admire their brilliance while fearing their shadow. We celebrate their innovation while questioning if their very success erodes the foundation we stand on. Because democracy is not just laws and elections. It is trust. It is the belief that no single human being can rise so high that they stand above the collective voice of the people. And yet here they are, standing on the threshold of something larger than kings, larger than presidents, private empires with global reach, moving faster than the laws meant to contain them. And if democracy cannot keep pace, what becomes of the people's power? Does it fade quietly, drowned out by the roar of rockets and the hum of servers? Democracy was never designed for this. It was forged in an era when power moved slowly, when even the most ambitious tycoons could be checked by laws, by labor unions, by the will of the P. But Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos move faster than the machinery of governance can comprehend. Their companies cross borders that laws cannot. Amazon operates like a sovereign state, setting wages, shaping labor markets, and negotiating directly with cities as if they were nations. SpaceX negotiates with the NASA and the United States Department of Defense as if it were an allied power rather than a private firm. Even X, formerly Twitter, wields influence over political discourse that rivals national media networks. This is not capitalism as democracy imagined it. This is something new, something faster, larger, and more elusive than the institutions built to restrain power. When governments confront them, they rarely win. Antitrust laws were designed for railroads and oil barons, not digital empires and satellite constellations. Regulators try to slow them down, but the system moves like molasses while their companies move at light speed. Amazon faces labor complaints, antitrust probes, and hearings before United States Congress. And yet it grows quarter after quarter, like a wildfire devouring every market it touches. Tesla defies traditional auto regulations, pushing self-driving technology faster than safety agencies can test it. SpaceX launches rockets while environmental reviews are still being written. They move so fast that by the time rules are drafted, the world has already changed. Democracy was built for brakes, but these men only build accelerators. And the influence reaches deeper. When SpaceX's Starlink network became vital to communications in Ukraine during the Russian invasion of Ukraine, governments realized something unsettling. A private billionaire now controlled a strategic military asset. Musk could decide, personally, where and when a war-torn nation could communicate. No public vote, no international treaty, just one man's decision. That is power on a scale democracy never envisioned. Similarly, Amazon Web Services under Jeff Bezos hosts critical infrastructure for governments, banks, and healthcare. If it faltered, parts of society would simply stop. This is not the free market at work. This is dependency, and dependency is the opposite of democratic power. When nations rely on private men more than public institutions, sovereignty begins to slip quietly out of the people's hands. Worse still, their wealth lets them shape the rules meant to contain them. Lobbyists flood the halls of United States Congress, carrying their interests like sacred scripture. Campaign donations open doors that ordinary citizens can never touch. When Amazon threatened to move its new headquarters, cities across the United States competed like vassal states, offering tax breaks worth billions. When Tesla wanted to build its gigafactory, environmental rules bent like reeds in the wind. Laws are supposed to shape power, but now power shapes laws. And when law bends to wealth, democracy begins to kneel. This is how republics erode, not with coups or tyrants, but with quiet concessions, one exception at a time, until the rules serve the rulers instead of the ruled. Even in media, democracy's watchdog often becomes their megaphone. Bezos owns the Washington Post, one of the most influential newspapers in the United States. Musk controls X, a platform where global narratives are forged in real time. They do not simply appear in headlines. They shape which headlines appear. And in a world where perception is power, controlling the story means controlling the battlefield. Democracy relies on an informed public. But when information flows through private gates, the public's understanding can be curated, filtered, or redirected to serve the hands that hold the levers. Freedom of speech means little if the loudest microphones belong to private empires. And so, a dangerous imbalance emerges. Democracy depends on friction, on rival powers holding each other in check. But Musk and Bezos face no rivals large enough to counterweight them. Governments are too slow. Unions are too fractured. Competitors are too small. They operate like sovereigns without borders, kings without crowns. And when there are no checks, power drifts toward absolutism. Not because the men are evil, but because systems always bend toward whoever can move fastest, spend deepest, and reach farthest. The question is no longer whether they can influence the world. It is whether the world can still influence them. This is where the story turns inward, not toward them, but toward us. Because the true question is not simply whether Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are too powerful for democracy. It is whether democracy is still powerful enough to rise to this moment. These men are not tyrants. They are dreamers. They are the raw, electric surge of human will unbound by fear. But when power concentrates in private hands, democracy faces a choice: adapt or erode. This is the fork in the road. We can watch as power centralizes, hoping their ambitions will always align with humanity's. Or we can awaken, sharpen the guardrails, rebuild our institutions, and prove that the voice of the people can still steer the future, even when billionaires stand like colossi on the horizon. Democracy has survived giants before. It has faced kings, dictators, robber barons, and monopolists who seemed untouchable. They, too, built empires that spanned continents and bent governments to their will. And yet, each time, the people rose. They passed antitrust laws. They created labor protections. They fought for the press, for transparency, for fair elections, for public education, the invisible armor of freedom. They reminded the powerful that civilization is not their property, but our shared creation. Musk and Bezos may move faster than those old titans, but history's lesson is unchanged. Concentrated power endures only until the people decide it will not. But courage begins with clarity. We must see their power not as destiny, but as design, a design built on systems that reward scale, speed, and silence. We must ask why a single tweet can sway markets, why one man's internet constellation can influence wars, why a company like Amazon can decide the fate of entire industries. These are not accidents. They're the result of rules that favor size over accountability. If democracy is to endure, it must be redesigned for the age of empires without borders. That means faster regulation, transparent algorithms, data rights that protect people like constitutions protect nations. This is not about punishing visionaries. It is about protecting the public square from becoming private property. And we, the people, must reclaim our role as more than consumers. We are not here just to buy their products, retweet their words, and marvel at their rockets. We are here to shape the values that guide civilization. If we want a future where innovation serves humanity instead of ruling it, we must demand it. We must vote with our ballots, with our wallets, with our voices. We must build our own companies rooted in ethics and transparency. We must support leaders who believe in both innovation and accountability. Because democracy is not a gift from the powerful. is a fire carried by the people, and it dies only when we stop tending it. Musk and Bezos may shape the architecture of tomorrow, but they do not own tomorrow. No one does. The future is not inherited. It is built, moment by moment, by those who dare to take responsibility for it. They remind us what human beings are capable of when they refuse to accept limits. Now we must remind them, and ourselves, that even the most brilliant individuals must serve something greater than themselves. Not because they are unworthy of their dreams, but because no dream should eclipse the collective light of billions. So let this be our answer. They are not too powerful for democracy. Not yet. Because democracy is not fragile glass. It is forged steel, beaten and broken and reforged across centuries. It has endured kings and conquerors, tyrants and oligarchs, and it will endure the age of billionaires too, if we have the courage to defend it. If we stay awake. If we remember that power is not what they hold in their hands. It is what we hold in ours. The vote, the voice, the will. This is not the end of democracy. It is its next great test. And if we rise to it, if we choose responsibility over apathy, courage over comfort, unity over fear, then the age of Musk and Bezos will not be remembered as the moment democracy fell, but as the moment it grew strong enough to rise again. If this message stirred something deep within you, don't let fade. Don't just watch this moment. Become part of the movement it represents. Because this world, our world, is shaped not just by billionaires, but by everyday people who choose to rise, to speak, to create, to dare. So, if you believe that democracy is not a spectator sport, if you believe that power must serve the people, not rule over them, then take your first step right now. Hit that like button, not just to support this channel, but to ignite a signal that you will not sit silently in the shadows. Subscribe, because together we are building a voice too loud to ignore. A community of dreamers, fighters, and builders who will shape the next era. And most of all, share this video with just one person who needs to hear this message. Because one spark becomes a flame, and a flame becomes a revolution. The future isn't written by those who watch from the sidelines. It's written by those who stand up, speak out, and push forward, no matter the odds. So stand with me, rise with me, and let's remind the world that no matter how powerful any one person becomes, the power of the people will always be greater.